Thank you for your very important contribution. I refer to the use of disinformation, which the word I think you used was propaganda, and how it can be so subtle that you may not even realize, the building up of this, constant stream of information which alters perceptions amongst the population. From your experience, do you have any examples of how such disinformation campaigns, propaganda can be countered? Not so much in the traditional sense, but are there any modern techniques, even legislation, for example? I mean, what potential approaches could a state take to inoculate itself against such possibilities?
I think if you're going to hear from my colleagues, Jakub Janda in Czech Republic, they have done excellent work in really identifying the different disinformation webs, really identifying the sources of the propaganda and pointing fingers to them and educating the public. These disinformation webs spread, misinformation and deception, and trying to bring it to the spotlight. You will hear from different, country experts in Germany or elsewhere. There are different types of methods to counter that. The problem, in many ways, is you cannot counter every piece of disinformation. Right? You cannot have 10,000 people scouting the net in real time and countering every piece of disinformation out there. So you have to prioritize which information really creates the most, greater effect, and which information, which news spreads rapidly, and why. And this is what for example, Jakub's center has been doing, really identifying the key sources of disinformation and pointing and educating the public about them. And also identifying the people behind these disinformation webs, trying to trace the money, where they're funded from, who supports them, and sort of try to map out the web, the interconnected web between the political space, media, and the disinformation sources in particular countries.
Just a quick follow-up to that. I think the approaches that you suggest may be more appropriate for a state which is known to be constantly under a certain attack in the domains you mentioned, cyber information operations. But for in a more localized setting in Singapore, for example, I mean, the realities that surround, for example, as an example, Russia, it can be very different compared to some of the situations that Singapore has to deal with. Particularly since we have an open door policy, a more welcoming stance to all our neighbors, and we wish to do business with everyone.
I think the threat for Singapore is both. It's both the state actor as well as the non-state actors. So at the non-state level, you will hear probably about the threat of extremist and violent organizations. They can use this to spread disinformation propaganda, to radicalize the local population. So you have the non-state sort of element. But remember, the non-state actors can be supported by the state actors, right? Yes. So in many ways, attribution factor is the essence of strategic ambiguity. So a state actor can very well sponsor a non-state actor to promote these type of messages. And this is what's happening in Europe in a way, where according to research by Jakub and Janis and others, where Russia may sponsor ultra-right-wing political parties in France, in Germany, and others, that spread certain type of narrative that divides the population, right? So that is the key, I think, in a way, also my bottom line, that Singapore cannot discard the state actors as well. And it doesn't have to be particularly, great power. It can be also state in the region that may rely on this type of methods and tools.
Thank you.